Eleanor often found herself drawn to the quiet corners of her mind, places where the past lingered like the scent of old parchment and forgotten tea. Now, in her early 50s, with the gentle wisdom of years softening her gaze, these memories weren't just fleeting images, they were tangible sensations, rich tapestries woven from the threads of time. They were her anchors, her secret gardens, offering solace and a gentle smile in the often demanding rhythm of her present life. It was a crisp autumn afternoon in Vermont, the kind where the air was sharp with the promise of winter, yet the sun, a pale gold disk, still held a lingering warmth. The maple trees, ablaze in their final spectacular display of crimson and gold, painted the landscape with breathtaking beauty. Eleanor, dressed in a cozy knit sweater and worn jeans, navigated the narrow, winding road that led to the small town of Willow Creek. She wasn't seeking anything specific, just a quiet escape from the relentless demands of her publishing career in Boston, a chance to breathe in the pure, unhurried air of a place where time seemed to slow. Her destination, though unplanned, felt inevitable. It was an old, unassuming bookstore nestled on the town's main street, its weathered wooden facade almost swallowed by a cascade of ivy. The whispering pages, a faded sign above the door, proclaimed, its letters chipped and worn. She had stumbled upon it purely by chance during a college road trip decades ago, and it had somehow etched itself into a permanent corner of her memory. Back then, it was just another quirky stop. Now it felt like a pilgrimage. The bell above the door jingled softly as she pushed it open, a sound that immediately transported her back in time. The air inside was thick with the intoxicating aroma of old paper, dust, and something else, a faint, sweet scent of forgotten tea leaves and beeswax polish. It was a smell that instantly calmed her, a balm to her often overstimulated senses. Sunlight, diffused by the dust motes dancing in the air, streamed through the tall, arched windows, illuminating towering shelves crammed haphazardly with books of every size and age. The bookstore was a labyrinth of literary treasures. Narrow aisles wound between stacks of books that reached almost to the ceiling, some leaning precariously, as if whispering secrets to each other. There were sections labeled with whimsical, handwritten signs, tales of faraway lands, mysteries of the human heart, forgotten poets of the Gilded Age. It was a place where logic gave way to intuition, where discovery was the only true guide. Eleanor began to wander, her fingers trailing lightly over the spines of worn volumes. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, just allowing the quiet magic of the place to envelop her. She found herself in a corner dedicated to classic American literature, a section she remembered browsing as a wide-eyed college student. Her gaze fell upon a well-loved copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, its cover faded, its pages yellowed. She pulled it from the shelf, the familiar weight of it in her hands a comforting presence. As she opened the book, a small dried pressed flower, a tiny delicate violet, fluttered from between its pages, landing softly on the worn wooden floor. Eleanor knelt, picking it up gently. It was a simple, poignant discovery, a silent testament to a previous reader, a forgotten moment frozen in time. A faint smile touched her lips. This was the allure of old bookstores, she thought. They were not just repositories of stories, but of lives, of fleeting moments captured between the lines. Suddenly, a voice, deep and resonant, startled her. Ah, a classic choice. That one always seems to find its way into the hands of the most thoughtful readers. Eleanor looked up, her heart giving a small, unexpected flutter. Standing in the aisle, a few feet away, was a man in his early 50s, perhaps a year or two older than herself. He had kind eyes crinkling at the corners, and a shock of distinguished gray hair that fell casually across his forehead. He wore a tweed jacket that looked perfectly at home amidst the dusty shelves, and a gentle, knowing smile played on his lips. He held a thick, leather-bound volume in one hand, his thumb resting on its spine. "Oh," Eleanor said, a blush creeping up her neck. I didn't realize anyone else was in this section." He chuckled, a warm, inviting sound. "This is my sanctuary. And you, it seems, have found your way into it." He gestured to the book in her hand. a personal favorite. It's remarkable how some stories resonate across generations, isn't it? Eleanor nodded, feeling an inexplicable ease in his presence. It truly is. It's like they hold a piece of the past, a kind of timeless wisdom. She held up the tiny violet. I just found this. A little piece of someone else's history. The man's smile softened. Indeed. These old books, they're not just paper and ink. They're vessels of memory, of emotion, of lives lived, and lessons learned. He extended a hand. I'm Arthur Finch. I own this place. Eleanor took his hand, her fingers warm in his. Eleanor Vance. It's a pleasure to meet you, Arthur. Your store is magical. Arthur's eyes twinkled. I like to think so. It's certainly seen its share of magic over the years. He paused, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than strictly necessary, a quiet curiosity in his eyes. Tell me, Eleanor Vance, what brings you to Willow Creek and to the Whispering Pages on such a beautiful autumn day? Eleanor felt a strange pull, a sense of recognition in his gaze, as if they had met before or were destined to. The scent of old books, the soft jingle of the bell, the gentle autumn light. It all conspired to create a moment suspended in time, a new thread being woven into her tapestry of nostalgic tales. She smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. I suppose, she said, I'm looking for a story. Or perhaps, to rediscover a part of my own. Eleanor's words. I suppose I'm looking for a story. Or perhaps, to rediscover a part of my own. Hung in the air. A soft invitation. Arthur's smile deepened. A knowing glint in his kind eyes. He seemed to understand, without needing further explanation, the subtle yearning that had drawn her to his quiet sanctuary. There was a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the deeper currents that flowed beneath the surface of everyday life. Many people come here looking for stories, Arthur said. His voice a gentle murmur that blended seamlessly with the hushed atmosphere of the bookstore. Sometimes, they find them on the shelves. Other times, they find them within themselves, sparked by a forgotten memory or a new connection. He gestured around the room, his hand encompassing the towering shelves, the dusty light, the very essence of the Whispering Pages. This place has a way of doing that. It opens doors you didn't even know were there. Eleanor felt a comfortable warmth spread through her, a sense of ease she rarely experienced in her fast-paced life in Boston. Here, amidst the scent of old paper and the quiet hum of history, she felt a quiet permission to simply be. It truly does, she agreed, her gaze wandering to a sunbeam illuminating a particularly ancient-looking tome. It's like every book holds a secret, a whisper from another time. Precisely, Arthur replied, his eyes twinkling. And sometimes, those whispers are meant for you. He leaned against a tall bookshelf, his tweed jacket blending into the scholarly backdrop. So, Eleanor Vance, what kind of story are you hoping to find? Or rediscover? Eleanor paused, considering. I work in publishing, she began, in Boston. It's a world of deadlines, bestsellers, and constant noise. I love books, of course, but sometimes the business of it overshadows the magic. I suppose I'm looking for the magic again, the quiet joy of a story, unburdened by market trends or sales figures. She looked down at the copy of To Kill a Mockingbird still in her hands, then back at the tiny pressed violet, and perhaps to remember what it felt like to read purely for the love of it, without analyzing its market potential or target audience. Arthur nodded slowly, a sympathetic understanding in his gaze. The commercial world can certainly strip away the soul from things, can't it? Here, we try to preserve that soul. Every book on these shelves has a history, a journey. Some were bestsellers in their day, some were obscure treasures. But here, they all find equal footing, waiting for the right reader to find them. He paused, then added, And the right reader always does, eventually. He began to tell her stories about the bookstore itself, tales woven from decades of quiet observation. He spoke of the eccentric professors who frequented the philosophy section, the young lovers who met by chance in the poetry aisle, the children who discovered entire new worlds within the pages of a fantasy novel. He recounted how the store had survived recessions and the rise of digital media, always finding a way to adapt, to remain a beacon for those who cherished the tangible beauty of books. His voice was rich with affection for his establishment, and Eleanor found herself captivated, drawn into the quiet, unassuming history of the whispering pages. "My grandfather started this place," Arthur explained, his gaze softening as he looked around. He believed that books were more than just objects, they were living things, repositories of human experience. He used to say that a good bookstore was like a living library, always growing, always changing, but always rooted in the past. He smiled wistfully. "I suppose I inherited his philosophy, along with the shelves." Eleanor felt a deep resonance with his words. Her own love for books had been ignited by her grandmother, who had spent countless hours reading aloud to her from worn fairy tale collections. The smell of old books, the feel of paper beneath her fingertips. These were deeply embedded in her own nostalgic landscape. "That's a beautiful philosophy," she said. "And it's clear he built something truly special here." They talked for what felt like hours, the conversation flowing effortlessly from books to life, from shared passions to quiet reflections. Eleanor found herself opening up to Arthur in a way she hadn't to anyone in years. She spoke of the subtle loneliness that sometimes accompanied her professional success, the feeling of being constantly on in a world that rarely slowed down. She confessed her yearning for a simpler existence, for genuine connections that weren't dictated by networking events or industry trends. Arthur listened patiently, his gaze unwavering, his presence a comforting anchor. He shared his own experiences, the quiet satisfactions of a life lived in harmony with his passions, the challenges of maintaining a small business in an increasingly digital world. He spoke of the importance of community, of the simple joys found in the rhythm of small-town life. There was a gentle wisdom in his words, a quiet strength that resonated deeply with Eleanor. As the afternoon light began to fade, casting longer shadows across the bookshelves, Eleanor realized how much time had passed. The initial purpose of her visit, a quiet escape, had transformed into something far more profound. She hadn't just found a story on the shelves, she had found a connection, a kindred spirit in the most unexpected of places. The tiny pressed violet, still clutched in her hand, felt like a silent testament to the magic of this encounter. A small, delicate emblem of a new memory being woven into her personal tapestry of nostalgic tales. "I should probably get going," Eleanor said reluctantly, a sigh escaping her lips. "I have a long drive back to Boston." Arthur nodded, a hint of regret in his eyes. "Of course. But I hope you'll come back, Eleanor Vance. The Whispering Pages and Willow Creek always welcome those who seek a little magic." He smiled, a warm, inviting gesture. "And perhaps your story isn't quite finished yet." Eleanor returned his smile, a genuine, unburdened smile that reached her eyes. "Perhaps not, Arthur. Perhaps not." She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her heart, that this wouldn't be her last visit to the Whispering Pages. The scent of old books, the quiet wisdom of its owner, and the gentle rhythm of Willow Creek had stirred something profound within her, a nostalgic melody she was finally ready to listen to. The drive back to Boston from Willow Creek was a journey through a landscape ablaze with autumn's final, defiant glory. The maples and oaks, once a riot of green, now burned with fiery reds, brilliant oranges, and deep russets against the fading light. Eleanor drove with the windows slightly ajar, letting the crisp Vermont air, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke and damp earth, fill the car. It was a stark contrast to the stale, recycled air of her Boston office, a reminder of the raw, untamed beauty she had just left behind. Her mind, usually a whirlwind of publishing deadlines, author queries, and market analyses, was uncharacteristically quiet. The silence was not empty, but filled with the echoes of Arthur's gentle voice, the rustle of old pages, and the profound scent of the whispering pages. She replayed their conversation, dissecting his words, not for their commercial viability, but for their inherent wisdom. Every book on these shelves has a history, a journey. They all find equal footing, waiting for the right reader to find them. And his grandfather's philosophy. A good bookstore was like a living library, always growing, always changing, but always rooted in the past. These weren't just quaint sayings. They were profound truths that resonated with a part of her soul she hadn't realized was yearning for validation. The tiny pressed violet, found within the pages of To Kill a Mockingbird, lay on her passenger seat, a delicate, fragile emblem of her unexpected encounter. It was a tangible piece of the magic she had sought, a silent testament to the serendipity that had guided her to Arthur and his bookstore. She thought about the ease with which she had spoken to him, sharing vulnerabilities she rarely revealed to even her closest friends. There was something about Arthur, his kind eyes, his quiet presence, that invited honesty, a sense of being truly seen. He hadn't offered solutions or advice, just understanding, a rare and precious commodity in her demanding world. As the familiar sprawl of Boston's suburbs began to appear on the horizon, the golden light of dusk gave way to the harsh glare of streetlights. The quiet contemplation of the countryside was replaced by the familiar hum of traffic, the distant wail of sirens, the relentless pulse of a city always in motion. Her shoulders, which had relaxed during her escape, began to tense instinctively. The transition was jarring. A sudden plunge from a tranquil pool into a churning current. Her apartment, a sleek, minimalist space in a high-rise overlooking the Charles River, felt colder, more sterile than usual. The perfectly organized bookshelves, filled with pristine, unread copies of new releases, seemed to mock the warm, chaotic charm of the whispering pages. She unpacked her small bag, placing the pressed violet carefully on her bedside table, a splash of delicate purple against the stark white linen. It was a small rebellion against the polished efficiency of her life, a secret reminder of the magic she had found. The next morning, Eleanor returned to her office at Sterling and Finch Publishing, a glass and steel fortress in the heart of downtown. The air was thick with the scent of fresh coffee and ambition. Her assistant, Sarah, a bright, perpetually energetic young woman, greeted her with a stack of urgent emails and a detailed itinerary for the week. "Welcome back, Eleanor. Everything survived without you, mostly," Sarah chirped, a knowing grin on her face. Though Mr. Sterling was asking about the Q3 projections again, Eleanor managed a tired smile. Of course he was. Anything else I should brace myself for? The day unfolded in a familiar blur of meetings, phone calls, and endless emails. She reviewed manuscripts, debated marketing strategies, and navigated the delicate dance of author relations. Her mind, sharp and analytical, quickly re-engaged with the demands of her job. She was good at this, exceptionally good. She could spot a bestseller from a mile away, negotiate a lucrative contract with ruthless efficiency, and steer a struggling project back on course. This was her domain, the world she had meticulously built for herself. Yet, a subtle shift had occurred. As she sat in a high-stakes meeting, listening to a colleague passionately pitch a new fantasy series, Eleanor found her thoughts drifting. She wasn't just analyzing the market potential. She was thinking about Arthur's words, about the inherent magic of storytelling, unburdened by market trends. She caught herself wondering if this particular book, with its intricate world-building and complex characters, would find a home on the dusty shelves of the whispering pages, cherished by a reader purely for the love of the narrative. The thought was fleeting, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a quiet counterpoint to the usual commercial calculus. Later that week, while reviewing a particularly dry financial report, Eleanor found her gaze lingering on the small, framed photo on her desk, a picture of her grandmother, smiling warmly, a well-worn book open in her lap. She remembered the scent of her grandmother's old house, a comforting mix of lavender and paper, and the way her voice would weave tales of dragons and princesses, transporting young Eleanor to faraway lands. It was a memory she hadn't consciously revisited in years, overshadowed by the relentless demands of her adult life. The memory, sparked by the lingering essence of Willow Creek, felt like a precious gift. She began to make small, almost unconscious changes to her routine. Instead of grabbing a quick, impersonal lunch at the office cafeteria, she'd seek out a small, independent deli, savoring the simple pleasure of a well-made sandwich. She started taking the long way home, walking through a small, neglected park near her apartment, noticing the way the autumn leaves crunched underfoot, the crispness of the air. These were small acts of rebellion, quiet attempts to reclaim a sense of presence and connection that her life in Boston often denied her. Her conversations with friends also subtly shifted. When they complained about office politics or the latest industry gossip, Eleanor found herself less inclined to join in. Instead, she'd ask about their weekend trips, their hobbies, the small joys they found outside of work. She noticed their surprise, a slight hesitation in their responses, as if unsure how to react to this softer, more reflective version of Eleanor. One evening, after a particularly draining day, Eleanor found herself staring at her meticulously organized bookshelf. She picked up a pristine copy of a newly released literary fiction novel, a guaranteed bestseller she had personally championed. She opened it, but her eyes kept drifting to the empty space, where she imagined a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird might sit. Its pages yellowed, holding a forgotten violet. She knew she couldn't simply abandon her career. She had built it with years of hard work and dedication, but the quiet joy she had felt in Willow Creek, the profound sense of connection with Arthur and his philosophy, had awakened something deep within her. It was a yearning for authenticity, for a life where the magic of stories wasn't just a commodity, but a living, breathing entity. The memory of Arthur's parting words echoed in her mind. "And perhaps your story isn't quite finished yet." She realized he wasn't just talking about the book she might find, but about the narrative of her own life. And she knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her heart, that the next chapter of her story would inevitably lead her back to Willow Creek, back to the whispering pages, and perhaps back to a deeper understanding of herself. The scent of old books, a nostalgic melody, continued to call to her, promising a different kind of fulfillment than the one she had so diligently pursued. The quiet rebellion Eleanor had initiated in her daily routine slowly began to deepen, evolving from subtle shifts into more deliberate choices. The pressed violet on her bedside table became a daily touchstone, a fragile reminder of the profound peace she had found in Willow Creek. It was a stark contrast to the relentless hum of Boston, a city that, despite its intellectual vibrancy, often felt devoid of genuine quietude. Her work at Sterling and Finch continued, a demanding dance of deadlines and demands, but her internal landscape was undergoing a significant transformation. She found herself increasingly detached from the cutthroat competition of the publishing world. The thrill of landing a bestseller, once a powerful motivator, now felt somewhat hollow. She still performed her duties with her characteristic efficiency, but the passion, the intrinsic joy she once derived from the business of books, had begun to wane. Her colleagues, immersed in the latest industry gossip and sales figures, seemed like distant figures, their concerns no longer resonating with the quiet yearning in her soul. One particularly dreary Tuesday, a torrential rain lashed against the windows of her office, mirroring the gloom that had begun to settle over her. She was in a meeting, listening to Mr. Sterling, the formidable head of Sterling and Finch, deliver a rousing speech about aggressive market penetration and maximizing profit margins. His words, usually so compelling, now sounded like a cacophony of ambition, devoid of the very essence that drew Eleanor to books in the first place. She looked around the polished conference room, at the stern faces of her colleagues, and felt an overwhelming sense of disconnect. Later that afternoon, back in the solitude of her office, Eleanor found herself staring at the pristine, unread books on her shelf. They represented success, prestige, the pinnacle of her career. Yet, her mind drifted to the chaotic, overflowing shelves of the whispering pages, each book worn, loved, imbued with the history of countless hands. She pictured Arthur, his kind eyes crinkling as he spoke of his grandfather's philosophy, of books as living things, vessels of memory. The contrast was stark, almost painful. She picked up her phone, her thumb hovering over the contact for her Boston therapist, Dr. Evans. She had been seeing Dr. Evans for years, primarily to manage the stress of her high-pressure job. But lately, their sessions felt superficial, like she was discussing symptoms without addressing the root cause. She knew what she needed wasn't another coping mechanism. It was a fundamental shift. Instead, she opened her web browser and typed Willow Creek, Vermont. The small town's website loaded, showcasing images of quaint Main Street shops, rolling hills, and, prominently, a picture of the Whispering Pages, its ivy-clad facade looking as inviting as she remembered. She found a listing for a small, charming guest house just outside of town, its description promising quietude and breathtaking views of the autumn foliage. Without a moment's hesitation, she booked a room for the upcoming weekend. The decision was impulsive, a sudden surge of conviction that bypassed her usual meticulous planning. It felt right, a decisive step towards the quiet magic that had called to her. She didn't tell Sarah, her assistant, or any of her colleagues. This was a pilgrimage, a personal quest for something she couldn't quite articulate, but knew she desperately needed. The drive to Willow Creek that Friday afternoon was a balm to her soul. The city gradually receded in her rearview mirror, replaced by the sprawling beauty of the New England countryside. The tension in her shoulders began to ease, her grip on the steering wheel loosening. The air grew crisper, cleaner, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. As she drove deeper into Vermont, the autumn colors seemed to intensify, a vibrant tapestry of reds, oranges, and yellows against the deepening blue sky. She arrived in Willow Creek as dusk settled, the streetlights casting a soft glow on the familiar storefronts. The guest house was exactly as described, cozy, rustic, and utterly charming. After checking in, she unpacked quickly, placing the pressed violet from her bedside table into a small, antique vase on the guest house windowsill. It felt like bringing a piece of her newfound truth into this temporary sanctuary. The next morning, Eleanor woke early, the crisp autumn air invigorating her. She dressed in comfortable clothes and set out on foot towards the town center. The streets were quiet, save for the distant chirping of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. She passed by a small bakery, the aroma of freshly baked bread pulling her in. She bought a warm croissant and a cup of coffee, savoring the simple pleasure of a leisurely breakfast on a park bench, watching the town slowly awaken. Her steps inevitably led her to the Whispering Pages. The ivy-clad facade looked even more inviting in the morning light. The open sign hung on the door, and a faint light emanated from within. She hesitated for a moment, a flutter of nerves in her stomach. Would Arthur be there? Would he remember her? Would the magic still be present? Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the door. The familiar jingle of the bell announced her arrival, and the intoxicating scent of old books enveloped her, a warm, comforting embrace. The bookstore was quiet, the only sound the soft rustle of pages as someone browsed in a distant aisle. Arthur was behind the counter, his head bent over a large, leather-bound book, his glasses perched on the end of his nose. He looked up at the sound of the bell, and his eyes, kind and knowing, immediately met hers. A slow smile spread across his face, a genuine warmth that instantly put her at ease. "Eleanor Vance," he said, his voice a low, welcoming rumble. "I had a feeling you might return. Welcome back to the Whispering Pages." Eleanor felt a wave of profound relief wash over her. He remembered, and the magic was still here. "Arthur," she replied, her voice soft with genuine pleasure. "It's good to be back. This place. It's been on my mind." "I imagine it has," Arthur said, closing the book he was reading and setting it aside. "Some places, like some stories, have a way of staying with you." He gestured to the comfortable armchair by the fireplace, a small table beside it with a steaming teapot and 2 cups. "Care for some tea?" "I was just about to have a fresh pot." Eleanor's heart swelled with gratitude. It was as if he had anticipated her arrival, her need for this quiet sanctuary. "I'd love some, thank you," she said, walking towards the armchair, a sense of profound belonging settling over her. As she sat down, the warmth of the fire chasing away the autumn chill, Eleanor felt a deeper sense of peace than she had experienced in years. She looked at Arthur, his gentle smile, his calm demeanor, and knew that this return was more than just a weekend escape. It was a journey back to the essence of who she was, a rediscovery of the quiet joys and genuine connections that truly nourished her soul. The scent of old books, the gentle rhythm of Willow Creek, and the presence of a kindred spirit. These were the true treasures she had been searching for. The nostalgic melody that would guide her to the next, most authentic chapter of her story. The pot of tea, a fragrant blend of Earl Grey and dried lavender, steamed gently on the small table between them, its warmth a comforting presence against the crisp autumn air filtering in from outside. Eleanor cradled her cup, the ceramic smooth and warm in her hands, and felt a profound sense of contentment settle over her. It was a feeling she hadn't realized she was missing until now. A quiet, unhurried peace that seemed to permeate every corner of the whispering pages. Arthur, seated opposite her in a matching armchair, his tweed jacket blending seamlessly with the worn upholstery, exuded a calm, grounded energy. His eyes, kind and observant, held a depth that spoke of countless stories read and lives quietly observed. He didn't press her for details about her life in Boston, nor did he offer unsolicited advice. He simply listened, his presence a silent invitation for her to speak, or to simply enjoy the quiet. "It's been a long time since I've felt this." "Still," Eleanor confessed, her gaze drifting to the dancing flames in the fireplace. "Boston is always moving. There's a constant hum, a relentless push. Here, it feels like the world breathes." Arthur chuckled softly. "Willow Creek has a way of slowing you down. It demands that you notice the small things, the way the light falls through the leaves, the sound of the river, the rhythm of the seasons. We don't chase time here, Eleanor. We let it unfold." They spent the morning in quiet conversation, punctuated by comfortable silences. Arthur shared more anecdotes about the bookstore, tales of quirky customers and rare finds, of books that seemed to choose their readers rather than the other way around. He spoke of the town's history, its small, close-knit community, and the simple joys of living a life connected to the land and to each other. Eleanor, in turn, found herself sharing more about her own journey, the subtle disillusionment with the commercial side of publishing, her yearning for the inherent magic of stories she had felt as a child. "My grandmother," Eleanor began, her voice soft with nostalgia. "She was the one who truly taught me to love books, not just for the stories, but for the worlds they contained, the way they could transport you. She had a small, worn copy of The Secret Garden that she read to me countless times. I can still remember the smell of its pages." Arthur nodded, his eyes warm with understanding. "Ah, the magic of a first beloved book. It leaves an indelible mark, doesn't it? It's often those early experiences that shape our deepest passions." He paused, then added, "It sounds like she instilled in you a love for the true essence of storytelling, beyond the market trends." Eleanor smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. "She did. And I think I lost sight of that somewhere along the way, in the pursuit of what I thought was success." As the morning wore on, a few customers trickled into the bookstore, a local woman looking for a cookbook, a young couple browsing the travel section. Arthur greeted each one by name, exchanging warm pleasantries and offering personalized recommendations. Eleanor observed him, struck by the effortless way he connected with everyone, a stark contrast to the often transactional interactions she experienced in her professional life. There was a genuine warmth, a sense of community that permeated the air, as tangible as the scent of old books. In the afternoon, Arthur suggested a walk. "There's a lovely trail just behind the store, along the river," he offered. "The autumn colors are at their peak." Eleanor readily agreed. The crisp air invigorated her as they stepped outside, the vibrant hues of the maple trees a breathtaking spectacle against the clear blue sky. The trail wound gently through the woods, following the meandering course of a small, gurgling river. The only sounds were the rustle of leaves underfoot, the gentle murmur of the water, and the occasional chirping of birds. As they walked, Arthur pointed out different trees, identifying them by their leaves and bark, sharing snippets of local lore and natural history. He spoke of the changing seasons, the resilience of nature, and the quiet wisdom that could be found in simply observing the world around you. Eleanor, usually so accustomed to the concrete jungle of Boston, felt a profound sense of connection to the natural world, a grounding she hadn't realized she craved. "You know," Arthur said, stopping by a particularly ancient oak tree, its branches reaching like gnarled arms towards the sky, "my grandfather used to say that every tree has a story, just like every book. You just have to know how to listen." He patted the rough bark gently. "This one, for example, has seen over 2 centuries of Willow Creek's history. Imagine the tales it could tell." Eleanor looked at the tree, then at Arthur, a sudden thought sparking in her mind. "You have such a deep connection to this place, Arthur. To the books, to the town, to its history. Have you ever thought about writing your own stories? About Willow Creek? About the bookstore? About your grandfather?" Arthur paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. He looked out at the river, his gaze distant, contemplative. "I have," he admitted, his voice softer than usual. "Many times. I keep a journal, filled with observations, anecdotes, fragments of stories. But finding the time and the courage to truly commit to it, to shape them into something coherent, it's a different kind of challenge." He smiled wryly. "It's easier to sell other people's stories than to write your own, sometimes." Eleanor felt a surge of empathy. She understood that struggle, the daunting leap from inspiration to creation. "But you have so much to say, Arthur. So much wisdom, so many unique perspectives. I think people would love to read your stories." She thought about her own journey, her recent rediscovery of her true passion. Sometimes, you just need to give yourself permission to let the story unfold. They continued their walk, the conversation now turning to the art of storytelling, the delicate balance between structure and spontaneity, the power of words to evoke emotion and transport readers. Eleanor, in her professional capacity, had analyzed countless narratives, but talking to Arthur, a man who lived and breathed stories in a different, more organic way, offered a fresh perspective, a reminder of the raw, human element at the heart of all great literature. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, they made their way back to the bookstore. The warmth of the fireplace beckoned, promising another evening of quiet conversation and shared peace. Eleanor realized that this weekend in Willow Creek was more than just a temporary escape. It was a profound reconnection, a gentle reawakening of her soul. She had come seeking a story, and in doing so, she was beginning to rewrite her own, guided by the scent of old books and the quiet wisdom of a kindred spirit. The nostalgic melody of Willow Creek was not just a memory, it was a living, breathing harmony, inviting her to stay and compose the next, most authentic chapter of her life. The weekend in Willow Creek unfolded with a gentle, unhurried grace, a stark contrast to the relentless pace of Eleanor's life in Boston. Each moment felt imbued with a quiet significance, a subtle reawakening of senses dulled by urban clamor. She spent her mornings at the Whispering Pages, sipping tea with Arthur, their conversations weaving effortlessly between literary discussions and personal reflections. Arthur, with his profound knowledge of books and his intuitive understanding of human nature, became a calming presence, a quiet anchor in her storm-tossed soul. He never pushed, never pried, simply offered a space where she could be her authentic self, unburdened by professional facades. In the afternoons, Eleanor explored Willow Creek. She discovered a small, artisanal pottery studio where the scent of clay mingled with the earthy aroma of wood-fired kilns. She browsed a local farmer's market, marveling at the vibrant colors of freshly harvested produce and the genuine warmth of the vendors. She even found herself lingering by the river, watching the water flow, its ceaseless movement a quiet reminder of life's own currents. The town, with its unpretentious charm and close-knit community, felt like a living, breathing story, unfolding at a pace she had almost forgotten existed. The contrast with her Boston life became increasingly stark. In Willow Creek, conversations were unhurried, smiles were genuine, and the air itself seemed to hum with a different frequency. There was a sense of belonging, a quiet camaraderie among the townspeople that she rarely experienced in the anonymity of a big city. She found herself observing the interactions between Arthur and his customers, the easy banter, the shared jokes, the personalized recommendations that went beyond mere transactions. It was a community built on connection, on shared humanity, a stark departure from the often transactional nature of her publishing world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Vermont hills, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, Eleanor and Arthur sat by the fireplace in the bookstore, the only sounds the crackle of burning logs and the soft turning of pages. Arthur was reading from a worn collection of Emerson essays, his voice a low, soothing murmur. Eleanor, curled in her armchair, found herself not reading, but simply listening, letting the words wash over her, a rare luxury in her perpetually busy life. "You know," Arthur said, closing his book and looking at her, "you seem different, Eleanor. Lighter. More at peace." Eleanor smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. "I am. This place, it has a way of resetting things. It reminds me of what truly matters." She paused, then added, "And your stories, Arthur. About your grandfather, about the books, about Willow Creek. They've been incredibly inspiring." Arthur's eyes twinkled. "I'm glad they resonate. Every life is a story, Eleanor. And sometimes, we just need a quiet space to hear our own." He then returned to the topic of his own writing, or lack thereof. "It's funny, isn't it? I spend my days surrounded by stories, helping others find theirs, but my own remain largely unwritten, confined to dusty journals." Eleanor felt a surge of conviction. "But they shouldn't be. You have a unique voice, Arthur. A perspective that's rare and valuable. Those journals, those anecdotes, they deserve to be shared. They deserve to be a book." Arthur sighed, a wistful expression on his face. "Perhaps. But the thought of it, the discipline, the commitment, it feels like a mountain sometimes." "I understand," Eleanor said, her voice gentle. "The blank page can be daunting. But you don't have to climb the whole mountain at once. Just one step. One paragraph. One chapter." She leaned forward, her eyes earnest. "I've spent my career helping others bring their stories to life. Maybe I could help you." Arthur looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, followed by a slow, thoughtful consideration. "That's a generous offer, Eleanor. And a tempting one." He paused, then a genuine smile spread across his face. Perhaps it's time this old bookseller finally put his own words on paper. With a little encouragement, of course. The conversation shifted, becoming a lively discussion about narrative structure, character development, and the art of weaving personal anecdotes into a compelling story. Eleanor, drawing on her years of experience in publishing, offered practical advice, but more importantly, she offered genuine encouragement, a belief in his story that seemed to spark a new light in Arthur's eyes. It was a return to her roots, to the pure love of storytelling, unburdened by the commercial pressures of her usual work. As the weekend drew to a close, Eleanor felt a familiar pang of reluctance. The thought of returning to Boston, to the relentless hum and the sterile efficiency of her office, felt like stepping back into a world that no longer quite fit. She had found something profound in Willow Creek, a piece of herself she hadn't realized was missing. On Sunday morning, before her drive back, she sat with Arthur by the fireplace one last time. The pressed violet, which she had brought with her, lay on the small table between them, a silent witness to their burgeoning connection. "Thank you, Arthur," Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion. For everything. For the tea, for the conversations, for reminding me of the magic. Arthur reached out, gently patting her hand. The magic was always within you, Eleanor. You just needed a quiet place to rediscover it. He smiled. And remember, Willow Creek and the Whispering Pages will always be here, waiting for your next chapter. Eleanor returned to Boston with a renewed sense of purpose, but also with a quiet resolve. The city still hummed with its relentless energy, but she felt a subtle shift within herself. The noise no longer felt quite so overwhelming. She still performed her duties at Sterling and Finch with efficiency. But her perspective had changed. She saw the books on her shelf not just as products, but as stories, each with its own journey, its own unique magic. Her conversations with Arthur continued, a new rhythm established across the miles. They exchanged emails, filled with updates on his writing, her insights into the publishing process, and shared reflections on life. She found herself looking forward to his messages, their quiet wisdom a comforting balm in the midst of her busy week. She even found herself sketching out ideas for a small, independent imprint, a division of Sterling and Finch, dedicated to publishing unique, heartfelt stories that might not fit the mainstream mold, stories that, she realized, might find a perfect home in a place like the Whispering Pages. The pressed violet on her bedside table remained a constant reminder, a delicate anchor to the peace and authenticity she had found. Eleanor knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that her story was indeed far from over. And the next chapters, she realized, would be written not just in the bustling offices of Boston, but in the quiet charm of Willow Creek, guided by the scent of old books and the enduring wisdom of a kindred spirit. The nostalgic melody had found its harmony, and Eleanor was ready to compose the rest of her life's symphony, one authentic note at a time. Eleanor's return to Boston after that transformative weekend in Willow Creek was not a return to the status quo. While the city still hummed with its relentless energy, and the demands of Sterling and Finch remained as pressing as ever, something fundamental had shifted within her. The noise no longer felt quite so overwhelming. She had found an internal quietude, a subtle filter that allowed her to navigate the chaos without being consumed by it. Her efficiency at work remained undiminished, but her perspective had irrevocably changed. The books on her pristine office shelves were no longer just products to be marketed and sold. They were stories, each with its own journey, its own unique magic, a magic she was now determined to protect and nurture. Her conversations with Arthur became a new, cherished rhythm in her life, a steady counterpoint to the unpredictable tempo of Boston. Their emails, initially formal, quickly evolved into long, thoughtful exchanges. Arthur would send updates on his writing, snippets of anecdotes about Willow Creek, and reflections on the quiet wisdom gleaned from his daily life among books. Eleanor, in turn, would offer insights into the publishing process, gentle suggestions for his narrative, and share her own observations on the subtle shifts occurring within herself. She found herself eagerly anticipating his messages, their quiet wisdom a comforting balm in the midst of her busy week, a tangible link to the peace she had found in Vermont. The idea of a small independent imprint, a division of Sterling and Finch dedicated to publishing unique, heartfelt stories that might not fit the mainstream mold, began to take more concrete shape in her mind. She found herself sketching out business plans, outlining potential authors, and even drafting a mission statement that emphasized authenticity and literary merit over commercial viability. These were stories that, she realized, might find a perfect home in a place like the Whispering Pages, cherished by readers who sought substance over fleeting trends. It was a bold, almost radical idea within the corporate confines of Sterling and Finch, but it felt right, a natural extension of her rediscovered passion. The pressed violet on her bedside table remained a constant reminder, a delicate anchor to the peace and authenticity she had found. It was a silent rebellion against the sterile efficiency of her apartment, a small, vibrant splash of nature in a world of glass and steel. She often found herself tracing its fragile petals, remembering the quiet moment of its discovery, the unexpected connection it symbolized. Despite her renewed sense of purpose, the pull of Willow Creek remained strong. The memory of the crisp air, the vibrant autumn colors, the genuine warmth of the townspeople, and most of all, Arthur's calming presence beckoned to her. She found herself planning her next visit, not just as an escape, but as a necessary pilgrimage, a return to the source of her renewed inspiration. As winter deepened, bringing with it the stark beauty of snow-covered landscapes, Arthur's writing progressed. He sent Eleanor the first few chapters of his manuscript, a collection of interconnected tales about Willow Creek, its history, and the generations who had called it home, all woven around the central figure of his grandfather and the whispering pages. Eleanor read them with a growing sense of awe. His prose was quiet, evocative, filled with a gentle wisdom and a profound love for his subject. It wasn't flashy or commercially driven, but it possessed an undeniable authenticity, a timeless quality that resonated deep within her. "Arthur," she wrote in an email, her fingers flying across the keyboard, "these chapters are beautiful. They're exactly the kind of stories the world needs right now. Honest, heartfelt, and deeply human. You have a true gift." She offered specific editorial suggestions, but her primary message was one of unwavering encouragement. She saw in his work the very essence of the imprint she envisioned. Her conviction about the independent imprint grew stronger with each passing day. She knew it would be a battle, a significant undertaking within the established hierarchy of Sterling and Finch. But the thought of bringing stories like Arthur's to a wider audience, of creating a space for voices that might otherwise be overlooked, fueled her determination. This was no longer just about her career. It was about her purpose. One blustery February morning, as a fresh blanket of snow covered Boston, Eleanor made a decision. She requested a meeting with Mr. Sterling, a rare and significant move for an editor at her level. She spent days preparing, meticulously crafting her proposal, anticipating every objection, and rehearsing her arguments. She wanted to present not just a business plan, but a vision. A testament to the enduring power of genuine storytelling. The meeting was set for a Friday afternoon, a time usually reserved for winding down the week. Mr. Sterling, a man of imposing presence and sharp intellect, listened patiently as Eleanor laid out her proposal. She spoke passionately about the evolving literary landscape, the hunger among readers for authentic voices, and the unique opportunity for Sterling and Finch to tap into a niche market with significant cultural and, ultimately, financial potential. She presented her detailed financial projections, her marketing strategies, and her carefully curated list of potential authors, with Arthur's manuscript prominently featured. Mr. Sterling remained impassive throughout her presentation, his gaze unreadable. Eleanor felt the familiar tightening in her stomach, the pressure of the moment. This was it. The culmination of her rediscovered passion, the gamble on a future that felt profoundly true to herself. When she finished, a silence descended, thick with anticipation. Mr. Sterling leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled under his chin. "A bold proposal, Eleanor," he finally said, his voice measured. "Very bold. And a significant departure from our usual strategy." He paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. "You're essentially asking us to invest in a passion project, a labor of love, in a market driven by blockbusters." "It's more than a passion project, Mr. Sterling," Eleanor countered, her voice firm, unwavering. "It's a strategic move towards authenticity, towards building a loyal readership that values substance. It's about nurturing talent that might not fit the immediate commercial mold but has profound long-term potential. And frankly," she added, meeting his gaze directly, "it's about remembering why we got into this business in the first place. The stories." Mr. Sterling held her gaze for a long moment, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Then a slow smile began to spread across his face, a rare and surprising sight. "The stories," he repeated, a hint of nostalgia in his tone. "Yes. I remember those days. Before the algorithms. Before the endless data points." He leaned forward, his voice dropping slightly. "All right, Eleanor. You've made a compelling case. I'll admit I'm intrigued. This nostalgic tales imprint, as you've called it. It has a certain ring to it. Eleanor's heart leaped. Nostalgic Tales, she confirmed. The name feeling perfectly right. A tribute to her own journey of rediscovery. Very well, Mr. Sterling said, a decisive nod of his head. Draft a more comprehensive business plan for this Nostalgic Tales imprint. Include a detailed budget and a timeline. And, he added, a glint in his eye, make sure that Vermont Bookseller's manuscript is at the top of your acquisition list. I have a feeling his story might just be the perfect inaugural title for your new venture. Eleanor felt a wave of exhilaration wash over her, so profound it almost brought tears to her eyes. It was a victory, not just for her career, but for her soul. She had found her voice, championed her vision, and, in doing so, had opened a new door, not just for herself, but for countless other authentic stories waiting to be told. The scent of old books, the quiet wisdom of Willow Creek, and the enduring connection with Arthur had guided her to this moment. Her nostalgic melody had found its harmony, and now she was ready to share it with the world, one authentic note at a time. The next chapter of her life, and Arthur's, was about to begin. A true testament to the power of rediscovery and the enduring magic of tales. The exhilaration from the meeting with Mr. Sterling lingered, a potent fuel for Eleanor's renewed purpose. The Nostalgic Tales imprint was no longer a nascent idea. It was a tangible project, a green light to pursue the kind of storytelling she truly believed in. The corporate walls of Sterling and Finch, once stifling, now felt like a vast canvas awaiting her brushstrokes. This was a victory, not just for her career, but for the very soul of her professional life. The first order of business was to draft the comprehensive business plan Mr. Sterling had requested. Eleanor poured herself into the task, her mind buzzing with ideas. She meticulously outlined the budget, the marketing strategy, and the editorial vision for Nostalgic Tales. This wasn't just about numbers. It was about articulating a philosophy, a commitment to authentic voices and timeless narratives. She envisioned a curated list of titles, each one a testament to the power of human connection, memory, and the simple beauty of a well-told story. At the very top of her acquisition list, as Mr. Sterling had suggested, was Arthur's manuscript. She reread the chapters he had sent, each page reaffirming her conviction. His prose, quiet and evocative, painted a vivid picture of Willow Creek, its history, and the profound wisdom embedded in its everyday rhythms. It was the perfect inaugural title for Nostalgic Tales, embodying everything the imprint stood for. Her communication with Arthur intensified. Their emails became a flurry of editorial discussions, publishing timelines, and the practicalities of turning a cherished manuscript into a published book. Eleanor guided him through the process with a gentle hand, explaining the intricacies of contracts, editing, and design. Arthur, initially a little overwhelmed by the professional machinery of publishing, found reassurance in Eleanor's calm expertise and unwavering belief in his work. "It's a strange feeling," Arthur wrote in one email, "seeing my quiet observations transformed into something so tangible. It's exciting, but also a little daunting, like sharing a secret with the world." Eleanor smiled as she read his words. "It is daunting, Arthur, but it's also incredibly brave. Your stories deserve to be heard. They'll touch people in ways you can't imagine." She knew the feeling well, the vulnerability of putting one's creative work out into the world. As spring began to unfurl its gentle beauty across Boston, Eleanor found herself making frequent trips to Willow Creek. These were no longer just escapes. They were working visits, collaborative sessions with Arthur. She'd spend hours at the Whispering Pages, sitting by the fireplace, discussing cover designs, refining chapter titles, and debating the nuances of a particular phrase. The bookstore became their unofficial office, its comforting scent of old books and quiet atmosphere the perfect backdrop for their shared endeavor. Arthur, in turn, found a new energy in his writing. Knowing his words would soon reach a wider audience, he approached his manuscript with renewed vigor, polishing each sentence, deepening each character. Eleanor witnessed his transformation. From a quiet bookseller with a hidden talent, to an author embracing his voice. It was a profound joy to facilitate this blossoming, a different kind of fulfillment than the high-stakes deals of her previous work. Their professional collaboration deepened their personal connection. They discovered new layers to each other's personalities. Arthur's dry wit often surprising her during intense editorial discussions. Eleanor's quiet determination impressing him with its unwavering focus. They shared meals at the local diner, took long walks along the river, and simply enjoyed each other's company, their conversations flowing effortlessly between work and life, dreams and realities. One sunny afternoon, as they sat on a bench overlooking the river, the manuscript spread out between them. Eleanor looked at Arthur. "This book, Arthur," she said, her voice soft with admiration, "it's going to be special. It's going to remind people of the beauty in the everyday, the magic in the quiet moments." Arthur looked at her, his eyes warm with gratitude. "It wouldn't be happening without you, Eleanor. You saw something in these stories that I almost gave up on. You gave me the courage to share them." Eleanor smiled. "We all need someone to see the story within us, don't we? To help us find the words." She thought about her own journey, the way Arthur and the Whispering Pages had helped her rediscover her own purpose. Their collaboration was a testament to the symbiotic nature of their connection, each helping the other to flourish. As the publication date for Arthur's book, tentatively titled Willow Creek Whispers, drew closer, the excitement at Sterling and Finch began to build. Eleanor had successfully championed her vision, and the Nostalgic Tales imprint was generating a quiet buzz within the industry. Early reviews from literary critics were overwhelmingly positive, praising the book's authenticity and its gentle, evocative prose. The launch party was planned for a warm summer evening in a charming independent bookstore in Brooklyn, a deliberate choice by Eleanor to root the imprint's debut in a place that embodied its spirit. Arthur, initially hesitant about the spotlight, agreed to attend, his quiet excitement palpable. Eleanor stood in her office, looking at the final proofs of Willow Creek Whispers. The cover, a beautiful illustration of the Whispering Pages bathed in soft golden light, perfectly captured the essence of the book. She held the physical copy in her hands, its weight a profound satisfaction. This wasn't just a book, it was a dream realized, a testament to authenticity, and a symbol of the enduring magic that could be found when one dared to listen to the nostalgic tales of the heart. The next chapter of her life, and Arthur's, was no longer just beginning. It was unfolding, beautifully and authentically, one cherished story at a time. The summer evening in Brooklyn was perfect for a celebration. A gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant murmur of city life, softening the edges of the urban landscape. The independent bookstore Eleanor had chosen for the launch of Willow Creek Whispers was buzzing with an electric energy. Fairy lights twinkled amidst overflowing bookshelves, casting a warm, inviting glow on the diverse crowd that had gathered. This was not a typical corporate book launch. It was a gathering of kindred spirits, drawn by the promise of an authentic story. Eleanor stood near the entrance, a quiet sense of pride swelling in her chest. She wore a simple, elegant dress, her usual sharp professional demeanor softened by a genuine smile. She greeted guests, exchanged pleasantries with literary critics, and watched with satisfaction as copies of Willow Creek Whispers were eagerly picked up from a display table. The cover, with its beautiful illustration of the Whispering Pages bathed in soft golden light, seemed to beckon readers, promising a journey into a world of quiet charm and profound wisdom. Then she saw him. Arthur, looking a little overwhelmed but undeniably pleased, made his way through the crowd, a shy smile on his face. He was dressed in a well-tailored, dark blazer, a departure from his usual tweed, but his kind eyes and gentle demeanor were as familiar as ever. He carried a small, worn leather satchel, which Eleanor suspected contained his beloved journals. "Arthur," Eleanor said, stepping forward to greet him, her voice warm with genuine affection. "You made it. Welcome to Brooklyn." Arthur chuckled, his gaze sweeping around the bustling bookstore. "It's quite a change from Willow Creek, isn't it? But a beautiful one. This place. It feels right for the book." He looked at her, his eyes shining with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "It's surreal, Eleanor. Seeing so many people here. For my book." "It's real, Arthur," Eleanor assured him, gently squeezing his arm. "And it's because your story resonates. It's exactly what people need." The evening was a triumph. Arthur, initially hesitant about the spotlight, found his voice as he spoke about his grandfather, the history of the whispering pages, and the quiet inspirations behind Willow Creek Whispers. His genuine humility and heartfelt anecdotes captivated the audience. He signed copies of his book, exchanging warm words with each reader, his presence a calming anchor amidst the celebratory buzz. Eleanor watched him, a profound sense of fulfillment washing over her. This was the essence of nostalgic tales. Bringing authentic, heartfelt stories to the world. Stories that touched the soul rather than just the sales charts. The early reviews for Willow Creek Whispers had been overwhelmingly positive, and the launch party only amplified the buzz. The book quickly became a quiet sensation, a word-of-mouth phenomenon that resonated deeply with readers yearning for solace and authenticity in a chaotic world. It defied conventional marketing wisdom, proving that genuine storytelling, when nurtured and championed, could find its audience. The success of Arthur's book provided a strong foundation for the nostalgic tales imprint. Eleanor found herself with a newfound authority at Sterling and Finch. Mr. Sterling, initially cautious, was now openly impressed by her vision and its tangible results. She was given more autonomy, more resources, and the freedom to truly shape the imprint according to her philosophy. She began acquiring other unique manuscripts, seeking out voices that, like Arthur's, offered a blend of nostalgia, wisdom, and profound human connection. Her life in Boston, though still demanding, felt more balanced. She continued her work at Sterling and Finch with renewed vigor, but the pressure no longer felt all-consuming. She had found a way to infuse her professional life with her personal values, creating a space where the magic of stories truly thrived. The pressed violet on her bedside table remained, a constant, delicate reminder of her journey of rediscovery. Her relationship with Arthur deepened further. Their professional collaboration had blossomed into a profound personal connection, built on mutual respect, shared passions, and an unwavering belief in each other. They found themselves talking more frequently, not just about books and the imprint, but about their lives, their dreams, and the quiet joys they found in the everyday. Arthur continued to send her snippets of his writing, now working on a new collection of essays inspired by the changing seasons in Willow Creek. Eleanor, in turn, found herself sketching out ideas for her own writing, perhaps a memoir of her journey, a reflection on the power of nostalgia and the search for authenticity. One crisp autumn afternoon, a year after the launch of Willow Creek Whispers, Eleanor found herself back in Willow Creek, not for a work visit, but for a quiet, personal retreat. She sat by the fireplace in the Whispering Pages, a steaming cup of tea in her hands, watching the gentle autumn light filter through the dusty shelves. Arthur was across from her, reading from one of his new essays, his voice a comforting murmur. "You know," Arthur said, looking up from his manuscript, "this life, it's good, isn't it? Simple, but rich." Eleanor nodded, a profound sense of gratitude filling her heart. "It is, Arthur. More than I ever imagined." She thought about the life she had once chased in Boston, the endless pursuit of external validation. Here, in this quiet sanctuary, with Arthur by her side, she had found a different kind of richness, a deeper fulfillment. "I often think about that first day you walked in here," Arthur mused, a nostalgic smile on his face. "Looking for a story. And look at all the stories we've found since. All the ones we've helped bring to life." Eleanor reached out, taking his hand. "And all the ones we'll continue to find, Arthur." Together, their eyes met, and in that shared glance, a lifetime of unspoken understanding passed between them. They had both found their way back to themselves, to the authentic rhythms of their souls, guided by the scent of old books and the enduring magic of nostalgic tales. Their individual journeys, once separate, had converged into a beautiful, intricate tapestry, woven with threads of shared dreams, unwavering support, and a profound, quiet love. The story of Eleanor and Arthur, like the timeless narratives they now championed, was not just about two people. It was about the enduring power of connection, the courage to rediscover one's true purpose, and the quiet, everlasting melody of a life lived authentically, together. The next chapter, they knew, would be a symphony of their own making, a testament to the beautiful, unfolding story of their intertwined lives. The crisp autumn afternoon in Willow Creek, a year after the successful launch of Willow Creek Whispers, felt like a culmination, a quiet crescendo in the symphony of Eleanor's life. Sitting by the fireplace in the whispering pages, the scent of old books a comforting embrace, she felt a profound sense of peace. Arthur, across from her, reading from his new collection of essays, was a testament to the transformative power of their shared journey. They had both found their way back to themselves, to the authentic rhythms of their souls, guided by the subtle magic of this place and their unwavering connection. "You know," Arthur said, looking up from his manuscript, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "This life. It's good, isn't it? Simple, but rich." Eleanor nodded, a profound sense of gratitude filling her heart. "It is, Arthur. More than I ever imagined." She thought about the life she had once chased in Boston, the endless pursuit of external validation, the constant hum of ambition that had often drowned out the quieter melodies of her soul. Here, in this quiet sanctuary, with Arthur by her side, she had found a different kind of richness, a deeper fulfillment that resonated with every fiber of her being. "I often think about that first day you walked in here," Arthur mused, a nostalgic smile on his face. "Looking for a story. And look at all the stories we've found since. All the ones we've helped bring to life." He gestured around the bookstore, its shelves overflowing with narratives, both published and waiting to be discovered. Eleanor reached out, taking his hand, her fingers warm in his. "And all the ones we'll continue to find, Arthur, together." Their eyes met, and in that shared glance, a lifetime of unspoken understanding passed between them. They had both found their way back to themselves, to the authentic rhythms of their souls, guided by the scent of old books and the enduring magic of nostalgic tales. Their individual journeys, once separate, had converged into a beautiful, intricate tapestry, woven with threads of shared dreams, unwavering support, and a profound, quiet love. The nostalgic tales imprint at Sterling and Finch continued to flourish under Eleanor's guidance. It became known as a haven for unique, heartfelt narratives, a counterpoint to the commercial behemoths of the publishing world. Eleanor found immense satisfaction in nurturing new voices, in bringing stories like Arthur's to a wider audience, proving that authenticity and genuine connection could indeed find their place in the market. She balanced her demanding work in Boston with frequent, cherished visits to Willow Creek, finding a harmonious rhythm that sustained both her professional ambitions and her personal well-being. Arthur's second book, Seasons of Willow Creek, a collection of essays reflecting on the changing landscape and timeless wisdom of his small town, was met with similar critical acclaim and reader adoration. He continued to write, his journals overflowing with observations and anecdotes, each one a potential seed for a new story. The Whispering Pages thrived, becoming a beloved literary landmark, drawing visitors from far and wide who sought not just books, but the quiet magic and genuine human connection that permeated its walls. As the years unfolded, Eleanor and Arthur's relationship deepened, evolving into a quiet, profound partnership. They found joy in the simple things. Shared cups of tea by the fireplace, long walks along the river, the comforting presence of each other as they worked on their respective projects. They celebrated each other's successes, offered solace during challenges, and continued to learn from one another, their lives a continuous dialogue of shared experiences and evolving wisdom. One crisp winter evening, many years later, Eleanor and Arthur sat side by side on the old, comfortable armchair by the fireplace in the Whispering Pages. Snow fell softly outside, blanketing Willow Creek in a pristine white. Eleanor, her hair now streaked with silver, held a well-worn copy of Willow Creek Whispers, its cover softened by countless readings. Arthur, his distinguished gray hair a little thinner, leaned his head against hers, a contented sigh escaping his lips. "Remember that little violet?" Eleanor murmured, tracing the faded illustration on the book's cover. "The one I found in To Kill a Mockingbird?" Arthur smiled, his eyes twinkling. "Of course, a tiny seed of a story, wasn't it? And look at all that's grown from it." Eleanor looked around the bookstore, at the towering shelves, the warm glow of the lamps, the quiet magic that filled every corner. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from the relentless pursuit of external validation in Boston to the profound fulfillment she had found in this quiet Vermont town, with this kind, wise man by her side. It was a journey of rediscovery, a testament to the enduring power of nostalgia and the courage to listen to the whispers of one's own heart. Their story, like the timeless narratives they now championed, was not just about two people. It was about the enduring power of connection, the courage to rediscover one's true purpose, and the quiet, everlasting melody of a life lived authentically, together. It was a tapestry woven with threads of laughter, tears, dreams, and unwavering love, continuing to unfurl, each new day adding another beautiful, resonant pattern to its intricate design. The Whispering Pages, a beacon of stories and connection, would continue its quiet vigil in Willow Creek, its scent of old books forever mingling with the sweet fragrance of lives well lived, a constant reminder that the most profound tales are often found not in the grand pronouncements of the world, but in the gentle, nostalgic whispers of the heart. And Eleanor and Arthur, two souls intertwined by destiny and a shared love for stories, would forever be a part of its magic. Their own lives a living, breathing testament to the enduring power of nostalgic tales.